Chapter 30. Wednesday afternoon. As soon as Doreen got home, she felt guilty about all the muffins she'd consumed. She changed into her gardening clothes, headed back outside with a tall glass of water and ice, and attacked the garden, starting from the creek's edge. She wasn't sure she should be working along that edge. If the water was rising, making for the rising creek, it might take away a lot of topsoil nearby. So she started about a foot back. She was a good 10 feet along when her phone rang. Ready to have any interruption to excuse her from this work, she checked the phone to see it was Nan. "Hi, Nan," she said, breathing heavily. With that shortness of breath, Nan said, "I would be happy if I thought you had a good reason for it. But knowing you, you're probably gardening." Doreen groaned. "Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. Gardening." "Too bad," Nan said brightly. "Now heavy breathing. If you were with Mac, that's a whole different story." Doreen pinched the bridge of her nose and sighed. "Did you have a reason for calling?" "Of course. It's not like I call for no reason," Nan said, puzzled. Doreen bit back her impatience. "So what was it?" "I talked to Jenny," she said with a note of importance. "And I knew there was something she hadn't discussed." Doreen sank down to the grass and stretched out full length, so she could stare up at the sky as she talked to Nan. "What was it?" Jenny and Manny accidentally met up at City Park. On one of the days, Jenny was with her church group. Seeing Jenny, Manny had called to her. Jenny tried to ignore her daughter, but Manny walked over and basically embarrassed Jenny terribly in front of her church ladies. Of course, that would be very uncomfortable for Jenny. Not exactly easy on Manny either. "Quite right, but I think after that, Jenny had nothing more to do with Manny." "Did she say anything that was helpful about that meeting that would pertain to Manny's death?" "Manny said something about how she was leaving and how Jenny wouldn't have to worry anymore." "Interesting," Doreen said. "Did Jenny have a date when this happened?" "Yes," Nan said, and she named the date. Doreen thought about it and said, "That was about a week before Manny disappeared." "Yes," Nan said. Another reason why Jenny wasn't too worried when her daughter supposedly was missing. Because, as far as Jenny was concerned, her daughter had left, as she'd said. Jenny's pretty choked up about them finding her daughter's body, now. Doreen really wanted to ask if she was choked up about the loss of her child, or the loss of an actual accurate date of death for her family Bible, but figured that was the wrong question. "It must be tough to lose a child," she said as a compromise. "Yes, but that's hardly Jenny's issue. I think she walked away from that whole relationship a long time ago." "So her issue now is the date of death for the family Bible?" Doreen couldn't believe it. Surely, there was something else to worry about than the accuracy of a Bible notation. "Yes, but she also said Manny had a friend with her at the time they met. She's been trying to force her brain to think of who it was." "And did she? Did she have a description too?" "No, not really, but she saw Manny talking to this woman before they approached, which is one of the reasons why Jenny deliberately tried to avoid her. She was afraid it was a customer, and she didn't want anything to do with that." "So it's this woman she's trying to identify?" "Yes," Nan said. "And it's been bothering her." "Right. Can she give me an age?" "No, not really. At least I didn't think to ask." "Nan, I'll email you a photo," Doreen said, hopping to her feet. "Can you ask Jenny if this is the woman who was talking to Manny?" There was a short, surprised silence, and then Nan jumped in with, "Of course. You already know who it is." Her voice rose in excitement. "Does she have something to do with Manny's disappearance?" "I have no idea," Doreen said. "It's just a thought." Back in the kitchen, Doreen sat down by her laptop, booted it up, and then searched for the image she was looking for. When she found it, she attached it and sent it to Nan. "Get back to me as soon as you've asked her, will you?" Doreen asked. I'll call you back in 10 minutes, Nan said before hanging up. Doreen washed her face and hands while she waited to hear back from Nan. She checked the clock and realized it was mid-afternoon already, and she could fully justify another pot of coffee. She set one to dripping and waited. When Nan called back, Doreen snatched the phone off the table and said, "And?" "It's her," Nan cried in excitement. "Jenny really wants to know who it is, so she has a name to go with that face." "It's Lynette," Doreen said. "Norbert the banker's wife." "That's Lynette Watkins." "I don't know who that is," Nan said in disappointment. "I didn't recognize the face, although Jenny certainly did." "You can tell her the name," Doreen said, "but that's not her name now. After Norbert died in the hit and run, she remarried fairly quickly. She married an investment banker, and her new name is Lynette Porter." "Oh my," Nan said. "He's one of the shakers and movers in town." "I'm not sure what that means in a small town like this," Doreen said dryly. "My husband was a shaker and a mover in West Vancouver, but he was slimy." "I'm not at all sure this guy isn't the same here," Nan said thoughtfully. "This is a fascinating turn of events." "But really it has nothing to do with Manny's disappearance," Doreen reminded her. "All we're doing is solving the puzzle of who Jenny saw 10 years ago. I'm telling Jenny right now." And Nan hung up on Doreen again. Doreen chuckled. She looked down at the animals and said, "Apparently I'm a bad influence on everybody here." Muggs woofed at her. Doreen filled up his dog bowl with food, and then Goliath's and Thaddeus's. "I'm pretty sure I fed you guys and the food is still in your bellies, but hey, if you're hungry like I am, maybe you should have a bit more." And rather than making herself a sandwich, she sat to have another banana muffin. And then, with the second banana muffin and a cup of coffee, she sat out on the little deck, my very little deck, she reminded herself. It would now only be a temporary deck, though. As soon as she finished her coffee, she would get a second quote. That would give her the information she needed. Just as she was about to finish her coffee and to head out, Nan called back again. "Jenny says thank you." That's exactly who she was thinking of. She said the woman gave Manny something. That's one of the reasons why it struck her as odd. "Do you know what it was she gave her?" Nan's voice rose in triumph as she said, "Yes. This woman gave Manny money."